Hay unas, vale. Hay unas personas aquí que entienden el inglés, un poquito. A mí no me gusta mucho el español, a mí no me gusta, no habla en mi país hace muchos años. Entonces, Spanish, I'm just doing my best. It means I don't have enough beer yet. That's your cue. Do we have slides? Are they coming up soon, maybe? I have a feed, it's working on here. Is anyone even in the room addressing that? Like, I can dance, but I think they like locks better. Ah, que bueno. Okay, so I am here to talk to you about lockpicking. Has anyone done any lockpicking before? Algunos manos? Bueno. Lockpicking is really fun. I enjoy it a lot, and I sort of turned it into, I guess, a job. For the longest time, I was just an IT security guy. I worked on routers and switches and networks. And I still kind of do. I mean, it depends where you see me. You could see me with, a nice shirt on, and I'm working for my company, the core group, doing auditing and assessments. Or if you see me, just with the black t-shirt on, it means I'm probably with Tool somewhere. Tool is an open lockpick group. We conduct demonstrations, villages. We teach people as much as we can because we love when people actually try, hands-on, try lockpicking. It's a lot of fun and it's very easy. But in the end, it makes you safer. It makes you understand when security is good and when security is bad. And understanding the difference, absolutely, in our mind, it's a wonderful addition to your whole repertoire of security. I also like guns. I have lots of guns. It's incidental to this talk, but I mean, in the bar, ask me about guns, I'll talk forever. Because you're a country that you guys can own guns here, it's great. I travel to Europe and I travel to places where the government is afraid of guns and it's horrible. But yeah, I mean, I fly with mine all the time. I make a whole talk just about traveling with your firearms and all the troubles it can be and how easy it can be. But again, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about locks. And at first, when I gave my training yesterday, I was worried that Argentinian locks were very different than the ones you see in Los Estados Unidos. They're very different shape. It's a different type of mechanism. Where we come from, most locks have pins. These types of locks have levers. I can talk about them later. But most of our work, at least when we start teaching people, is with pin-based locks. But I was happy, I was able to find plenty of locks in Argentina with pins. So I said, great, they'll understand this, and they'll learn this, and then they'll open all their locks and switch them back to, this kind, because they're better. So why do we talk about locks? I like to say there are really 4 kinds of lock. There are really cheap, basic locks that are pretty bad. There are some locks you will find that might say hardened, or professional, or commercial. And they're a little bit better, but they're still picked the same way. You can still open them pretty easily. It just takes a little more skill. If you really want to protect yourself, and you really want to keep your things safe, you're probably talking about high security, specialized high security locks. And we talk about what makes them different. And there's even, I would say, a few locks out there, very few, that are almost unpickable. And we never like to use that word. It's, like the unrootable box. You're just waiting for someone in Russia to totally fill you with wares or something. But yeah, so I would say there's a couple locks that are almost unpickable. And why is this important? Well, if you're doing your job and you set up all the firewalls just right, and you configure everything, what happens if someone walks into your server closet and they just have a console cable? That's it. You could have all your telephone wiring in a nice room in the basement, but if someone just gets into that room and they have little clamps and they have a butt pack they can listen, that's it. All your data security is only as good as your physical security. What about lockpicking makes it so easy then? Why is it so simple to open a lot of locks? It has to do with how locks are made. Has visto ese, ¿verdad? With most locks, there's a plug, the round part that turns. And if you look inside, if you look deep down inside the keyway, you can sometimes see a small piece of a pin. Creen ustedes, hay pins in most locks. Many locks involve pins, but you don't know how, maybe. Well, if you take a lock apart, let's say we just cut the front of this lock off. What's really happening is this. There are two pins holding the lock shut. The one in red, the rojo, is called the key pin, pin de llave. And that one you can see if you look just right. Pero en azul is the driver pin. Driver pin is what actually holds the lock shut. And you can never see it unless the lock is all taken apart. But right now, sin llave, it's not possible to open the lock. You can't turn it because the driver pin is in the way. It's called binding. Put the key in. If it's the right key lifts the pin stacks just to the right height, allows it to turn. Does that make sense so far? Okay. That's all that's happening in most locks, at least where I come from, because our locks are shit. That's why we own all the guns. But even in most locks around the world, any lock with pins, that's what's happening. Now, it's not a single pin stack. There's a group of them. And notice how the bottom pins, the whole pin, have different shapes, different sizes. All of the cuts, each key has its own cuts called the bitting. And if you have the right key, every cut will line up perfectly, and all the pins will be in a row. If you have the wrong key, or even one position wrong on your key, it doesn't matter. Everything will still have to be perfect to turn. ¿Entiendes? Wonderful. You are now basically locksmiths at this point, because that's the only thing happening. It really is that simple. So, inside of a lock, this is an actual photo, however. We've seen a diagram, a picture, but this is a real photograph, and if you kind of cut it in, you'll see it's muy feo. It's ugly. The manufacturing of locks, the holes that are drilled into the lock, the pins that are made, they're imperfect. There's a lot of errors. And anything you make in a factory will have, you say, how much are you willing to pay? Remember, like tolerances, how tight, 1 millimeter, half a millimeter is enough. Okay, no, let's use cheap metal. Let's use, okay, I'll pay a little less, make my locks inexpensive. Inexpensive locks have these imperfections. Because of that, instead of this, imagine this here would be the plug, if we take it out. The plug should be perfect, the pins should be all perfect. Now, sin llave, trying to turn, every pin, binding, binding, binding. Da-da-da. That's not what happens in el mundo. That's not the real world. Because of those imperfections, the chambers are a little bit spaced problematically. The pins might not be perfect. If you try to turn a lock without a key, you're not binding every pin. You're really only binding the one that's the farthest over. The most out of alignment is the one hitting. Does that make sense? Well, if only one pin is hitting at once, you can attack the lock one pin at a time. It's not like a computer password. It's not like you're trying to launch the missiles. And you've got a, E. It's not like a password where you have to crack it all at once. You can actually attack the lock one piece at a time. You do that like this, with a little pressure. If you push on a pin stack that's binding, push, 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 eventually it will reach the right height, the height that a key would have raised it. So if you push, push, push again, and you hear, click, the plug will turn. It won't turn a lot. It'll turn just enough for the next pin somewhere to be the one hitting. But, mira, the pin you pushed, it's now stuck on top of the plug. Does that make sense? And as long as you keep pressure, gentle, very gentle pressure, it will never fall back down. And you can try to push another pin and another pin. From the side, it looks like this. We have a little tool putting tension, and here we're trying to find, now this one feels a little stiff. You say, oh, I think I set a pin. Push, push. Another one. You set another pin. Try it. Here's another one. So you're feeling pins that are stiff, not loose. You feel stiff, stiff, click, 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 bang. And eventually you get them all, and the whole lock turns. So all lock picking is a little pressure, and then you're hunting, están buscando, the tight pin, not the loose pin. If you find the tight pin and push on it, that will eventually open the lock. And I mean, it really is just that simple. Most locks don't have any extra protection inside of them. And now I'm happy to, look really stupid when I try to do this, and it doesn't work. But let me go ahead and I brought a few locks with me. We have a lot of locks in the public area. We have only 2 people. It's just me and Daisy, so we get mobbed over there. But we'll try to answer your questions, and we'll let you practice. We'll let you try all of this. Here I have just a regular lock that I've pulled out of a door. I don't know if we can see the front of it. It's up and down. So if I put my tensioner tool, when you try this, the 2 things you want is less pressure. Very gentle pressure here. Very light. Almost barely touching it. And with your pick, it's not, that's a little bit exaggerated for demonstration. It's very tiny movements. 1 millimeter, maybe 2 millimeter, very small movements. So, little pressure. If I reach in, and I can feel it pin. I can feel one more. See, you should be throwing things at this point. Now, if you push too far, if you lift any pins up too high, then the red pin is up in the shear line. You just have to stop, let go, let everything fall back down. Vale. Bueno. Okay, it's open. Oh, gracias, gracias. Whew. Every one of you can do this. Absolutely. And if you're just starting out, we have practice locks that are easier than others. Ask us about them, and you'll learn very quickly, and then it'll make sense, and then you'll start trying harder and harder, and then you'll be trying real, proper locks at that point. I encourage you to learn this first, because it's a little bit more delicate. But there's an even easier technique. And if you buy a kit from us or from someone else, if you've seen a lockpick kit, not all tools are hooks. Some tools look squiggly. Those are called, se llaman rakes. Raking is less, it's less sophisticated, but it's very effective. So much more quick than that, muy rápido. Just back and forth, and you try to vary the rake a little bit. You're trying to get lucky. And if you get lucky and just pop, pop, pop. Mira. Entonces, la misma aceleradora, pero ¿qué quiere decir rake? ¿Hay un nombre por rake en español? ¿Qué? No, no hay nombre. Okay, rake. Aquí la rake. Open. Absolutely. Don't even applaud that. That's just silly. But I mean, raking, if you're trying to do a penetration job, if you're working a job where you're trying to get in, go ahead try the rake first. When you're learning, I like to say, it's sort of like a hook is like a manual transmission. A rake is like an automatic. Learn the manual first. Because you can always, if you learn on a stick shift, you can always get behind the wheel of an automatic, and you're fine. If you've only like so many people in my country only have automatic transmission, and then they don't know how to, like, no one can drive my Jeep at home. They can't. How do you what? There's 3 pedals? Like, if technology does all the thinking for you, you never learn how. If you only use Metasploit, you never know how to, like, pwn from the command line. That's just how it goes. So if you only use rakes, you'll never be able to use a hook. But if you learn with a hook, you'll be okay. Switch to a rake. Every one of you is going to do this. Every one of you can do this. I guarantee it. So some locks, and I've seen these here in Argentina, in certain places, on certain, machines. Some locks are not conventional, keys. They have what are called tubular keys. It's absolutely possible to attack these locks as well. Sometimes there are special tools that you can use. Sometimes you don't even need special tools. In my country, there was a video that went online, and everyone freaked out when someone realized the most popular bike lock that everyone used. It was everywhere. Someone posted this on YouTube. You could take un bolígrafo, and if you pull it apart, it has this extra, this ring of plastic, right? You can jam this in a lock, a lot of tubular locks on this brand, wiggle it and jiggle it, and just pop it apart. So it's important to understand, when people created this type of lock, they said, well, people are picking, let's think of an entirely new lock, something no one's seen before. Well, that's a great idea, as long as it's designed well. That lock wasn't designed very well. It's like when DNS, when bind, kept getting owned over and over and over, and people said, let's stop using bind. Let's use a different product. Well, you've got to make sure that you're not just leaving one bad product for another product. Leave one bad thing for a good thing. If you don't know who's making the new product, who's to say it's any good? Maybe you should keep the old product, but just fix it and make it better. So yes, we have these all around. Don't ask me, oh, I want to learn how to steal bikes. Don't tell me this. This is not about that. It's about learning how to prevent someone from stealing your bike. One other type of lock that you do have in this country, and you might not realize it, it's called a wafer lock. And it doesn't have pins inside of it. A wafer lock just has, for lack of a better word, platas. It's no pins, it's just small plates of metal that shift around when you insert the key. If you were to look at this lock on the inside, it's así. Small plates of metal, and they hang down, and they can't be too low, they can't be too high, they have to be just in the middle. So it's a very, very simple design. It's so simple that it's not easy to attack with, delicate picks. Remember the hook? Well, it's very hard to stick a hook into a wafer lock. Let me jump back here. Come on. Well, it's very dark. It's hard to see. But that plug, these are the wafers. They're very thin. They're so thin that if you try to insert the hook, it will really just slip around them. It's not a very good attack. But it's absolutely possible to use those rakes. The raking attack? Oh my God, absolutely. Here's our wafer lock. Which way is it going to turn? It's going to turn clockwise. There we are. Yes? Vale. So, tensioner. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Here, I'll do it from this side so you can see the back piece. Ready? Am I going the right way? Let me make sure I'm going the right way. No, I'm not. Okay. Open. Well, why does that matter? You say these are horrible locks. No one uses those, right? They are such a joke. No, everybody uses those. Every desk drawer, they're all wafer locks. These are all photographs I've taken on audits late at night. So you get in, and of course, what is in every desk drawer? That's a password. Even, a junky, awful desk drawer. This guy kept his password right on top for me. It's very easy. All sorts of access panels, control panels. Who knows what's behind there? Is that just a faucet, or is that a big electrical transformer? It turns out this was actually las luces and what's the word for parking lot? These were giant lights in a parking lot, 480 volt. We were able, if we wanted to, we could have shorted out the power for a whole building behind this crappy wafer lock. How about an alarm panel? All wafer locks. Every access panel you've ever seen like this, I guarantee you it's a wafer lock. Here's a wafer lock protecting a camera. Okay, why not? Electricity panels. We always talk about this at various companies. When we go in and we check their security, we say, oh, I see your server room. It's locked very well. Good job. What's this panel here? Isn't this the electricity to the server room? And the guy says, yeah. And I say, well, you could pop this open in 30 seconds. Who cares if someone can't own your server, but they can DOS your server at 2 in the morning, and then everything goes down? Just because electric panels, a hotel room is one thing. A server room is very important. It's kind of ugly. Oh, by the way, wafer locks, every automobile, they're all wafer locks. Yeah. It's very freaky. Sometimes the ignition on modern cars, of course, has the chip in the key. But all the doors, yeah, they're all wafer locks. Complete junk. So sometimes we'll tell people, just if you have an electric panel, put a big lock over top of it. I don't know if I have a photo. No, I don't. Oh, well. But I have something else good coming up, as you just saw. So yeah, talk to us about wafer locks with raking. There's also a type of tool called jigglers. It's hard to see, pero ver. It's essentially a tool that works like a rake with no tensioner. You just use this as a temporary key, trying to bounce it and turn it and get lucky. Which way this is going to turn? Let's try. Whoa. See, I'm clearly not drinking yet because I caught that. Bueno. Absolutely freaky. Jigglers in filing cabinets, jigglers in, truck door. Which one is, this one opens my truck as easily as my own truck key. This one starts my Jeep, because my Jeep is older than me and it doesn't have a chip or anything in it. But yeah, wafer locks, complete junk. So even if you have a nice lock, like the guy with the password on his desk, you could have all of your other locks good. If there's one wafer lock somewhere protecting anything important, that's a problem. Okay, this doesn't have a lot to do with your corporate security, but who wants to learn about handcuffs? Okay, because in our game, our lockpick game, we have handcuffs, and you should all understand how they work, because you have to be able to escape out of them. I don't know what you do at Saturday night. Maybe you need to escape handcuffs with your friends. Handcuffs are very simple. There's hardly anything that moves inside the handcuffs. And the things that move don't move very much. Man, I wish we could get the screen a little brighter. Let me try. It's a little uglier, but if I switch primary and secondary, that's a little bit brighter. That helps. Okay. So, everyone has seen on a handcuff, has visto este, the arm that comes around. Well, that has little teeth which connect to a small latch with teeth on the inside. That's the only thing else that's really moving inside the handcuffs. There's a small spring, and yes, there is something called a double lock, an extra lock. It's important, if you're ever a policeman, to always use the double lock. If a handcuff is not double locked, well, you can do a lot to it. So here is the handcuff being used, one that I cut away. And the tip of a key on the handcuff, if you've ever seen a handcuff key, it really is just that simple. It's just a small bump that reaches in, turns, and pushes down on the arm. As long as that pushes down, the cuff will open. So in TV and in the movies, have you ever seen lockpicking and it's always bad? It's someone with like one tool and it's upside down and they have no tensioner and they're just, oh, the door's open. But when someone in the movies opens handcuffs and they take out a hairpin, that's pretty real. Handcuffs are pretty simple. So you can definitely just go through the keyhole with a bent paper clip or something. Try it. We have tons of paper clips and we have the handcuffs over there. But even if you don't want to do that, on many handcuffs, especially cheap handcuffs, you can take a long, thin piece of metal and slip it down into the sides of the cuff and push on the ratchet. Now, it would be great if you could slip in this side to push right down through here, push right on the ratchet. That's great, but look at these teeth. Those teeth make it very hard. The only way to do it is to put the tool in and crunch your hand harder to move it down. Then you hope you can pop out. It's not good if you get stuck even worse and it still doesn't open. So I tell people usually, come through the other side, the soft side, the side with no teeth. Slip right in that side, and if you rock and push the right way, you can definitely pop out of the handcuffs. It's not hard at all. I'm happy to try. Now everyone has to be ready to laugh at me now, right? Because if this doesn't work, I will look really funny. Because what is better than, you know, gigantic American culo in your face, stuck in handcuffs, right? So, this is just a regular tensioner from our pick kits. And if I can't, want to let you see if I can, but if I know where to insert it. To the left? Ah, en la luz. Bueno. Bueno. Every one of you can do that. Every one of you can do that. Now, not every one of you could do this, which I like showing. Because I'm an American and I never go to the gym and I eat too much, you know, shitty food, I'm not fat. I'm pretty fat. My friends, however, are all sexy and thin. So here are a few of them in Canada. This is one man. Does anyone ever do wireless hacking, Wi-Fi hacking? You may have heard the name Renderman. Yeah. Renderman. That's Renderman, and he's very, you know, muy flaco. So if you're skinny enough and crazy enough, you can do this. So he's getting, you know, cuffed behind the back, and he says, "Yeah, no, make it tight. I'll get out of it. Okay, get the other hand. All right, you got me. I'm in. I'm secure. I'm locked. It's okay. Here we go." Renderman says, all right, I've got the cuffs. I'm going to just move them around a little bit. And uno, dos, tres, boom. If you do that, you get a special prize over in the Lockpick Village. And he keeps picks in his hat. He keeps picks and he keeps a backtrack thumb drive, everything in his hat all the time. He's a great guy, and we thank him for that demonstration. Now, none of that will work if you're, quote, double locked in the handcuffs. If you ever wondered why the tip of a handcuff key is a little pin, there's a small bump at the end of the handcuff key, normal cuffs in operation look like this. If you stick the pin in the back side of the handcuff, watch the bar. If that bar bumps over, now the cuffs won't work at all. Not with the key, they won't get tighter, they won't shim. The only way to open them is to turn all the way around the other way and push the bar out. Now you can do it with a key. Here we are with showing the key from a different angle. And you can do it with paper clips or hairpin if you know how to dig through the cuff. And you can try it on ours. If you get really stuck, we'll think about letting you out after a while, after people make fun of you. But yeah, I mean, it's still possible. It's just a lot harder. So if most locks are this bad, how do you get better locks? How are we on time, by the way? ¿Qué horas? I mean, well, how, like, it's Ekoparty. I was supposed to talk 5 hours ago, and, you know, I wasn't here, so sorry. Well, I'll talk fast if we're running out of time. There are better locks. Things like locks where they make the keyway tighter and more curvy, it gets a lot harder to move your picks around. I've seen locks like this, I've even seen locks like this, and it's a sign that someone thought about security. It doesn't change the mechanism, but it makes it harder to pick. Oh, we never showed a shim attack. Oh, you'll like this. Why do I talk about unshimmable padlocks? Well, people have seen, padlocks before. Would you believe that most padlocks can be opened with beer cans? Have you ever seen this done? Give me a couple seconds with this beer can if I'm lucky. We need more beer cans, by the way, so everyone has to bring them to us. They can be, empty or not. It's up to you. So cut a small piece of metal, which I did very, very badly right now, but we'll see if it still works. So it's locked. Metal aquí. Ahí. Okay. Gracias. Most padlocks can be opened just like that, except ones that have what's called a double ball. Notice, all I was doing was pushing a spring. These padlocks have no springs. They have two balls that will only move if this center cylinder turns. Much better design. And you can ask a locksmith, is this padlock good? Is this padlock shitty? Is this padlock double ball? They'll tell you. The pins, you can change the pins in a lock to make it a lot harder to pick. Here is a spool pin, and you can see trying to set and lift that pin is very difficult. It's still possible. It's still possible to lift all of these special shaped pins. It just takes more time and more skill, but it's still pickable. Where we start to get really interesting, keep going, real high security locks are locks that completely go beyond basic pin and key mechanisms. One of the first locks I ever saw like this was a lock, in addition to the regular pins, it had a pin underneath in the plug. This is the bottom of the plug. Now this would only pull in and turn if you had a special key with a special cut down the side. So regular picks couldn't reach down there, regular tools couldn't reach in. It didn't take people long to realize they could just make special tools. Some people would just cut the regular special key and use that as the tensioner tool. But it's thinking beyond just basic pins, and that's good. Now, a lot of locks, instead of adding an extra pin here or there, they will add what's called a sidebar. So on the plug, there's a whole bar that only falls in if other things happen. Here is a double key by a European company called ASA. It's extra pins in the side. Pins, it's very hard to put your picks. Come on, where's my mouse? Getting picks up in here, it's impossible practically to stick regular picks in there. Here's another one by the Schlage company, the same idea. These pins lift and they turn in the sides of the lock. It's a really nice design. Some locks, if you've ever seen a groove running down the side of the key, those are locks with what are called sliders. Same idea, they have to lift into position, they have fake cuts, little cuts that'll jam in the wrong places. Very, very secure. Very hard to pick a slider lock. Almost impossible. In our country, the government all use a type of lock called a Medico. Do you have any Medico locks here? Ever heard the name Medico? That's okay, because they're not as good as they used to be. Medico pins, the whole pin spins into position, showing a long groove. This groove lets the bar fall inward. And it's because their keys are cut with these interesting cross cuts. It's a neat system. Here is a Medico plug that I pulled apart. See all these little black dots? Those are the cuts for the sidebar. That's the sidebar that would fit in. And they all spin and randomize when the key pulls out. And you put the key back in and they all spin into position. It's a neat design. It's pretty cool. The problem with it is the design is totally broken now because they didn't actually revise their design for many years. And someone wrote a book all about cracking the Medico. Ask me over there or read about it online. Mark Tobias and Tobias Buzmanis' book. They broke this very high security lock, and now they can open them literally in a minute or 30 seconds sometimes. And Medico thought it was a lie, and they said, oh, you guys made this up, you're using fake locks. So now if you look on YouTube, there's a video. It's kind of long because they didn't edit it. There's no cuts. They sit at a table with 10 brand new Medicos on camera, and they go, open this one, open it, open this box. And they open all 10 locks, and then on camera they have a FedEx envelope. And they throw them all into the envelope, seal it, and they say, this is going to Medico. And then they say, answer us, what did we do with the lock? And no, they never answered. So, but yeah, Medico locks, I wouldn't call them high security anymore. You do have locks in this country like this, however. Has anyone seen a lock that looks like that? Rotating disc locks, they are called. And it's a mechanism that doesn't have any pins. It's only a sidebar and wheels that spin. It's a very good design. I like them a lot. It's possible to attack some of them with a specialized type of tool called a 2-in-1 tool. It's very hard. We have video of people doing it you can watch later in the Lockpick Village. It takes a lot of training. If you have a lock like that, a rotating disc lock, you're very secure. It's a high security lock. There's one more type of lock that I would almost call unpickable. And there's only 2 examples I can give. One company, and I don't work for any of these companies. I just like some of their locks, and I didn't used to work for any of the companies I like shit on. I like just the locks that I like. A company in Finland called Abloy makes this lock, the Protec. It's a type of rotating disc where the wheels are all interlocked together. You can't use that type of tool to attack this rotating disc lock. We have possibly one over there we could show you. It's very nice design. It's what I used to have all my guns with Medico, and then I had to throw out all my Medicos because of Mark. So now I switched to Protex, and I'm very happy with them. There's some companies that put magnets in their locks. They're very expensive, so I didn't bring any. Is anyone going to DeepSec? It's a conference in November. DeepSec is in Austria. Wonderful, you'll see me there. I'll buy you a beer. Austria has a company called Eva, and one of their locks, their most expensive lock, uses magnets. And it's really amazing. The magnets actually cause parts to spin inside the lock, because these aren't, like this Japanese lock is north, south, south, north, south. It's just up and down, up and down. And it's possible to stick something in the Japanese lock and just read nor, sur, norte, sur, norte. You could read it and make a key. It's not like north, south, south, north. All of these discs have north and south somewhere on them, and they're all turned at different angles. So inside the lock, wheels spin into the sides of the lock because of the magnets. It's a really amazing design. I would consider those 2 locks to be almost unpickable. Now, why does that matter? Why is there a difference between high security and unpickable? Well, it's because of destructive entry that makes a difference. Someone can always break in, like by smashing a window. People often ask me, do I have like Abloy Protec on my house? And I say no, because I have glass in my house. Someone could just smash in. It doesn't make sense to put a Protec on my house. But if someone breaks in to your company or your house or anything, you will know that they were there. All types of destructive attacks are obvious. You come in the next day, even a nice locksmith, clean attack, drilling, you see it right there. This has been broken. If someone gets into your safe, they probably, they did it by cutting their way in or drilling their way in. You'll know. What about if you don't have a destructive attack, though? What if you come home after a vacation, you come back to your house, or maybe you have a home office, because it's more likely a company would have secret people coming after you. Now, I don't know what you do. Maybe the government's coming after you in your house. You've got all those crazy discs of prawn. What if you come home, though, and your house looks fine? Do you know that no one has been in there if your lock is really bad? What if you come to your office after, a weekend, you come in on Monday, everything looks fine. Was anybody there? Or was someone there but you don't know? Even your safe, if your safe is really bad, Or if you have, like I've seen a safe, it's beautiful. A safe that was a keypad safe, electronic pad, which was probably vulnerable somehow, but I didn't even check, because in case the power failed, it had a key backup. Wait for lock key. So if your safe is shitty, do you know that no one's been in your safe? Maybe they got in quietly and then left again, and you have no idea. That's the real threat. That's the real risk. If you want to make sure that no one has been in your stuff, you need one of those not just high security, but almost unpickable locks. I can be definitely sure when I go home, my guns are all still there, but I know, because I watch too many bad movies, no one like took one, you know, assassinated somebody and then put it back. Because if they took my gun, like they would have had to smash their way in because it's a Protec. As long as the Protec is still there and the case is still there, I feel secure. I know for sure no one has been there. It's possible, of course, to use all these locks in your life. The really bad locks that you get just at the corner, are they worthless? No, they have a purpose besides learning how to pick. They're really fun if you're just starting out. But you can use them easily for simple things. The nice locks, the commercial locks, you get at a hardware store or a lock shop. Real high security locks are only at lock shops. You know, it's not just going to the corner store, oh, I'm going to get a high security. No, you're dealing with a locksmith. And those unpickable locks, you're basically getting them on the internet. There's a couple of sites that will ship them. They don't exist in stores because they're very special. But those awful locks, if you have a shed in your backyard, you don't want to spend, you know, 300 pesos on a lock when the shed only has, you know, like 20 pesos worth of stuff, like a ladder and a hose and a bucket. Don't put a 300 peso lock on that shed. It's fine. Use the crappy one. Your house, my house, most of our houses, simple, protected, you know, pick-resistant locks are probably okay. If you have a couple of spool pins in there, if you have a couple of extra anti-pick pins, you're fine. Because the truth is, I mean, we all think that everyone's going to think we're awesome and we want to get their cool password. No one wants our stuff. No one cares about us. No one wants us. You know, only people who really want to get in somewhere special are people trying to get into a company or trying to, you know, break into a place where valuables are stored. So if you have a storage unit, if you have a safe, a vault of some kind, high security lock. That's the minimum you would want. Ask a proper locksmith for a high security lock. And in those rare places, it's hard to see that's a gun cabinet, but what you need to know, you don't just want to protect your stuff, you want to protect your own peace of mind. That's the rare instance where a, quote, unpickable lock would apply. So I hope you can understand the difference. I hope you understand the difference, you know, is it a script kiddie or is it like a Elite Boy coming after you? Are they just breaking in? Are they going to try to cut the lock off, or are they trying to pick and you'll never know they were there? That's the difference between high security and, you know, unpickable. I have a list of which locks I love and which ones I don't. You can ask me later why, but this is a quick, you know, list of the locks that are different classifications of lock. There are a lot more out there. You can ask us about them. You can ask us any questions you like. Please come and learn from us. Please come and try this for yourself. We will have some public picks. We have some picks for sale if you want to keep some. But who's going to come try this? I want to see more. Who's going to come? Come on. Yes, come and try this. It's really, really easy. You know, okay, haha, everyone can laugh at our silly locksmiths, but that makes sense too. You guys know if someone's going to break into your company, they're going to social engineer the person at the desk. They're not going to like pick their way in through the attic like Mission Impossible. So train your people, understand your locks. If you want, well, yeah, if you want to come by, please ask us questions. I probably talked for too long, so thank you very much. Thank you. What time is it? What time is it right now? And do we have any time for questions? Is anyone running the show back there? I can't see anything.
Yeah. Yes, you can do some questions.
Tiempo para preguntas, ¿verdad?
Hay un micrófono.
En realidad no hay preguntas porque nadie puede entenderme. I wasted
At the
your
beginning,
time.
excuse me.
Yes?
At the beginning, you said that in Argentina we use a different kind of lock. We call that a citra.
Claro.
Two pallets, doble paleta, decimos. Can you speak a little about the security of our locks?
Yes, I can. In fact, I can even pull my training slide to show you what's happening really quickly. My training with, 330 slides yesterday. Let's see if I can get my mouse down here. Bueno. So your locks are a type, these type of locks are a kind of lock called a lever lock. And inside of a lever lock, there are a series of these red levers all in a row that have to lift. When a key goes in, it's pushing up on the levers and pulling a bolt through a hole. That's the mechanism. It's still very simple. It's easy to understand. And if we have some that I took apart, I think, you can look at them and be like, oh, all right, that's the only thing happening in there. Thing is, there's usually very strong springs up here, very strong. Regular pick tools, if you try to jam them in there, they would bend and break. Special tools do exist for lever locks. I have a horrible video from YouTube that is blurry as everything, but people using specialized tools to reach in. This is someone taking the lever lock apart. Where's my mouse? Come on. And of course, he shot the video showing you solamente sus manos. So it's very boring, I guess, video, but yeah, there's the types of tools. Very heavy metal, hard steel. You see these a lot in parts of England. Some of my British friends are going to send me more of these tools so you can see them used. And put it this way, if you have me back next year, I already bought a bunch of your locks. I made some fake tools to try, and I got one open. I'll give you a whole presentation about this next year if you like. He's going to use this one, okay. And literally, it's just reaching, and you're trying to push on the bolt, and another arm coming around trying to push on each lever. But you can't just stab straight up. You have to kind of come around from the side to try to scrape into the lever, like the key. And much like other locks, there's different degrees of security. There are cheap ones that have no protection, and there are really high security ones that are much harder for a number of reasons. But I can give you a whole presentation about it next year. Or you can look online, because I'll probably start putting more pictures up. But does that answer a little bit of your question? I hope.
Otra pregunta.
Hi.
Alguien aquí and
Here.
entonces aquí.
Here we have some keys that don't have just one row of pins. They're almost for houses, or most for houses. They have like two sets of pins on the key. I mean, the key is like two sides, and the brand is Start. I don't know if you know it.
The
it looks
star.
like they have
it
both
looks
parts.
if you look right at it, does it look like a screwdriver? That kind, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are regular pin locks, but imagine 2 or even 3 of them all around in a side. So 1, 1, 1, all on the same key. So it's really, really hard. Remember that you have to look around trying to find the binding pin.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to find which pin is binding in 3 different directions with picks that you could reach upward, and then maybe it's over here. I'm going to pull my pole pick out, turn it. Let me try over here. Nope, got to pull the whole pick, and the whole time you don't want to disturb any other pin accidentally. So it's a simple mechanism, but it's very hard to pick. It's a minimum of like 15 pins. There's 1, 2, 3 rows, usually 5 pins. I've never picked one open. I've heard of somebody who tried once, and they said they got it, but I didn't see it, so I don't believe him. Would it be possible? In theory, but it's very hard. You had a question, and there's one person up here as well, but if there's someone right there. Última pregunta.
Hi. Is it so easy, like in the movies, to open a lock with just shooting?
To just shoot the lock off.
Yes.
No, it's actually not, doesn't work that way. Most of the time in las películas and in filmas, they'll shoot here, fuego aquí. That won't work. If you shoot here, yeah, that's fine. Usually a shotgun is what you want, but yeah, that's destructive entry, so it's beyond what Tool talks about. So I'll cover the Tool shirt, and I'll say, yeah, like to destroy a lock, you shoot it on the shackle. You don't shoot it in the body. There's a special type of shotgun round called a shock lock round, and it's powdered zinc, basically. It's sintered zinc, and yeah, I have them. I've used them. Just for fun, like out in a field. But yeah, it's definitely, it works kind of like that. But also, you just want to stand a little bit further back because it'll blow back and hurt you. That's why they use the powdered zinc ones. Do we have 1 minute for a quick story? Okay, because I want to tell one very quick story about our lockpicking game. Our lockpicking game over there, which el juego se llama Gringo Warrior. Gringo Warrior, verdad. Voy a tratar de hablar en español por ustedes. Porque hay una historia con ese juego. Una historia que fue algo de 6, 7 años pasado. En el pasado, el mundo fue muy diferente. Y usted está hablando con sus amigos en la computadora. Y dice, oh, puedo bla, 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 hablo de música. Y dice, oh, el nuevo álbum de los intoxicados. Bueno, ¿qué? Y su amiga dice, oh, es la bomba, verdad. Pero hay un gran problema. Un grande problema. ¿Alguien puede ver el problema? El problema ahí. No está usando la encripción, ¿verdad? Y en ese mundo fue un país con gobierno que estaba escuchando todo. Ese es un problema por tú. Porque el gobierno dice, ay Dios mío, son terroristas aquí, todo el mundo nos odia. Ellos se llaman a su ejército privado, ¿cómo se dice? El agua negro, el ejército agua, ¿sabe este nombre? El Blackwater. Y usted puede oír en su calle muchas botas. Y el hombre se van aquí, ellos, I'm in Argentina, pero hablar ellos. Ellos a usted se golpean y tratan en un viaje, un planeo con un saco en su cabeza. And you wind up in the basement of some horrible building. Y un hombre muy bruto, está, shouting at you, you terrorist, you Al-Qaeda. And you're like, what are you doing? It's stupid, tonto. Pero, you're not going to die, no va a morir. ¿Por qué? Un hombre arriba dice, oh, hermanos, you're not going to believe it. Hay un concierto de Toby Keith esta noche. Y todos los Blackwater guys, they all leave. Okay? Ellos salgan. Y usted quiere salir. Entonces, usted tiene sus herramientas de lockpicking. Y ese es nuestro juego. Allí tenemos esposas y es necesario removerse sus esposas. Entonces abre una puerta. Es una puerta un poquito fácil. Entonces hay una, ¿qué se dice? ¿Caja? Cogio, por favor. Un cogio, perhaps su pasaporte está aquí. So puede abrir, because it's, wait for lock. Es muy fácil. Otra puerta al mundo y hay posibilidad de usar el SUV de los Blackwater guys. El juego se llama Gringo Warrior y muy fácil. En cualquier situación hay 3 cerraduras. Hay fácil y medio y difícil. So, todas las personas aquí pueden tratar. Es muy fácil, es 2 pins o 2 platos en fácil. and 5 platos, 5 pins, and the hard, el difícil, is commercial, anti-pick pin, spool pin, a couple. But por favor, trátalo. A lot of fun, we will have a lot of prizes, and it's great to watch your friends trying to get out of handcuffs and out of it's a good time. So please come by. I really thank you for being here. Thank you so much.